Hello friends, and happy Mountain Monday. Today we're going to be getting a little bit fly, if you will. Alright friends, so today we are going to be doing another gear review video for y'all. And today we are reviewing the DJI Mavic Mini Drone. This drone came out last year, and it is one of the lightest drones on the market. It is perfect for backpacking and hiking use. I use this on the latter half of the Arizona Trail, and I've used it in a ton of videos since then, trying to share my story in a different way for you guys. So let's break it down a little bit first. When you first open the box, you're gonna find one of these. There's some angry birds, man. So you're gonna get this little hand remote. This is what you use to control the drone, obviously. So this is gonna come out. Your phone actually rests right in this little piece. Let me show you that real quick. All right, I think the angry bird finally left. So you get to plug in your phone to your remote, just like so. There are several of these little side connectors. One, it's a micro USB that goes into the side of the remote. And there's like 3 or 4 of these that come with the remote. So whatever kind of phone you have, it'll have the appropriate end on the other side, whether that's a USB Type-C, a Thunderbolt, like what iPhone uses, or I think there's also a micro USB to micro USB if you're on Android. So that's kind of how this all fits together. That's how you control it. And on the drone side of things, you have these arms that all fold out in their own little way, in typical quadricopter form. And in the back here, this is where you put in your SD card, and the junk in this trunk right here is the battery. Let's see if I can get this out. One of these little guys. The battery is actually 100 grams. In total, with SD card, camera, everything, this is only 250 grams. So one of these, the battery is actually pretty much the vast majority of the weight that is in this thing. And those batteries, we'll talk about those in a little bit, but you might want to get a couple extra of those. And then you pop off this little lens protector, and there's your camera. It's ready to fly. You link it up with your phone, you zoom it around. You get a live feed on your phone through the DJI Fly app. So that's kind of the bare bones, how this thing works, how it all kind of goes together. Now let's talk about some of the technical specs of the DJI Mini. So the general specs, it's a 249 gram takeoff weight. So that is the entire little helicopter piece of it, the quadcopter, plus the battery, plus the SD card. It's right around 250 grams for that whole apparatus. The entire package with the remote as well, it's just off of half a pound. It's right around there. So if you're considering throwing that in your backpack for a long trip or something like that. The max takeoff altitude, so if you're trying to get it to fly around, the max you can get it up in the air is at 3,000 meters above sea level. It's about 9,000 feet of altitude. But I personally have run into some issues right around the 6,000 foot mark, so like 2,000 meters. The propellers start working a little harder, you get a little less battery life out of it. So something to keep in mind. The max flight time at sea level without windy conditions is right around 30 minutes. So you can expect for one battery charge in this thing about 20 to 30 minutes of flight time. The max wind resistance is 8 meters per second. So that's a pretty good breeze. So you can fly this in pretty windy weather. I wouldn't push it though. Definitely be cautious if there's a breeze. You don't want to overdo it and have this thing fly into a bush. Their operating temperatures are 0 to 40 Celsius or 32 Fahrenheit to 104 Fahrenheit, depending which side of the pond you're on. The downward sensors on the craft. So it has no sensors really around it for colliding into stuff. Some of the larger drones do, but that weighs a lot more. So they kind of skimped on that to keep it lightweight, more portable. But it has downward facing sensors. So it'll be able to sense if it's a meter from the ground and it'll stop. So like a meter to half a meter. That's a safety feature, but a little more on that in a little bit. The max transmission distance, so how far you can get the craft from the remote, it's 4 kilometers, so 4,000 meters, about 2 miles. But that's uninterrupted space, like if you're on top of a mountain, just putting it straight out. Pretty sizable distance. I'm not sure you'd want to go that far because you got to keep in mind, you can only go out as far as the battery will let you come back, or else it'll obviously fall out of the sky and that's not going to work so well. So you got to be mindful about that. And last, for the general specs, it has an intelligent flight battery. So it'll start talking to you when it's running out of gas and is like, hey, I'm low on battery, I need to come home soon. It's also really cool, the built-in software of the drone, when you take off, if you're in cell signal. If you're in cell signal, you'll be able to fly it a lot further and a lot higher from you. And it'll have a GPS point where you're at. And it'll actually return to home if you lose signal or if there's some sort of an issue. If you do not have cell signal though, you will only be able to get this about 10 meters off the ground and you won't be able to send it very far away. Just one of the sort of side effects. You need to be in good cell signal to get the full utilization out of this craft. So it's 3-axis gimbal stabilization. It makes buttery smooth footage. Even if the whole craft is shaking, that footage is going to be rock steady. It's really awesome. You can tilt the camera from 0 degrees, so straight on, to 90 degrees down. It has a 1/2.3 inch CMOS sensor for the camera. It's a 24 millimeter camera, but due to the sensor, it's effectively a 35 millimeter format. It's the same, it's an equivalency. It can take photos in 12 megapixels. The camera stays at f-stop 2.8. The shooting range is 1 meter to infinity, and it can record video resolution up to 2.7K at 30 frames per second, or at 1080p at 60 frames per second. Honestly, this drone, if you're looking to get into a just starting, first drone ever, this was my first drone ever. If you're looking to just get started, the footage is breathtaking. It gets you used to flying. It's very easy to fly one of these craft. Just you need to be very careful with the aviation laws in your area or the area you're going to explore. For example, if you're going into this plane is gonna kill me. So if you're looking to get your first drone, get into the world of drone videography and photography, I would highly recommend the DJI Mavic Mini. The Mini 2 just came out this year, so there are some pretty steep discounts on these guys, trying to move the last model out. The new one, the only real perk and change is it has a 4K camera instead of a 2.7K camera. So one of these things, you can pick it up for $400, and that comes with extra batteries, extra props, prop guards, a case. It's called the DJI Fly More Combo. I'll put that down in the video description, a link to Amazon to get that. But also on Amazon, you can just get the remote and the craft for the same price, which is kind of weird. They're both right around $450. But as I said, this is a great starter drone. If you're looking to just get into it, it's very intuitive how to fly it. There's some good safety features. Obviously, it just plugs into your phone. It's very affordable. It's not like you're investing on like a $1,500 drone, and if it's your first one and you crash it, well, that really sucks. Obviously, if you end up trashing one of these, it still hurts quite a bit. It's several $100s. It's not as bad as $1,000. But it's really intuitive, and it's a good introduction to the world of it. A couple cool features aside from the normal photo and video, you have 3 different shooting modes that you can do. It's Cinesmooth, Position Mode, and Sport Mode. Cinesmooth increases the acceleration and braking time to offer a smoother view, so it's a more cinematic shot, but it also moves a little bit slower, and you have to take it a little easier around tight corners. Position mode is kind of in the middle. It'll hold it nice and steady. It'll move pretty quick. I usually leave it in position mode just because it's a general rule of thumb. Whatever you're trying to do, whatever is going to happen, you can generally make it work with that. And lastly, sport mode. Obviously, it's going to go a lot faster, but you sacrifice a bit of the stability over that. But I've had to throw it into high gear before if it all of a sudden gets really windy or something like that happens. So that's a cool way that you can adjust how you fly this. But on top of that, they have what's called quick shots mode. So it has technology built in here where the camera will recognize a target and you can select it on the app, kind of dragging the box over it. And it'll keep the camera pointed at that object and do one of a few different pre-generated flight paths. So there's what's known as the drone. It'll automatically fly kind of out like you see in this video here. It can do circles automatically for you. It can do what's called rocket mode, which it points kind of straight down at the object and blasts up off the ground, making that object look smaller and smaller, revealing more of the landscape around it. And there's also helix mode, where it starts close to the object and slowly does circles, getting bigger and bigger. And that's cool for shots like this that you see here. It really has just a bunch of really cool features that are really intuitive to use. And for a guy like me who doesn't have a drone pilot following him around through the woods, these automatic modes actually allow me to let the drone fly for itself while I'm doing whatever action I'm trying to record. So that makes it very easy as a one-man army for this whole project to get really cool shots of myself where it doesn't even look like I'm flying a drone around. One of these drones, they're a great starter drone. They're really adaptable, and this is the lightest one on the market. So if you're into hiking, into the backcountry, backpacking, all that sort of stuff, one of these can go in your pack and you'll hardly even notice it, and you can do a lot of fun stuff with it. Couple problems. So I told you about a lot of the pros. It's really fun. It's really cool. Couple cons with this guy. At least with my experience, when flying at higher altitudes, it flies a little bit more erratically. So, for example, I was flying out in the Nazis a couple weeks ago, and all of a sudden I'm seeing the camera and it's just going straight down. I'm putting all the gas into the up stick, so telling it to fly higher, and it just keeps going down. I'm like, it better not hit a tree, better not do something bad. I had this also happen to me when I was on the Arizona Trail, where it slowly just kept going down. It actually fell into a tree that time and kind of spun out. I'll put that footage in here. That about dropped my heart because that was my second day with using it on trail. So I felt like a real doofus. And I still don't really know what the issue with that is. I don't know if that's mine is just messed up, or if it's an issue that's known with other Mavic Minis, but it'll just start not listening to my commands. Like, it'll go forward and backward just fine, but it won't go up. It'll just start falling. So that's really unsettling. Also, the batteries take a lot of juice. I believe it's a 2600 milliamp hour battery. So if you calculate that out to like one of my Anchor batteries, my bigger one was 21,000 milliamp hours. So you could only charge this thing along with your phone a couple of times. So you really got to start considering rationing your power at that point, depending how much you carry. When I used this on the Arizona Trail, it was primarily when I was base camping. So I was going back to one central camp. I was day hiking and then camping with my parents at a base camp location where I could plug in all my electronics either to the wall of the camper or to our solar panel we had, depending what kind of setup we were using. And so that let me top up this battery every night. So I could fly this around 30 minutes that day when I was out on the trail, come back at night, charge it up so it's ready to go the next day. If you were trying to charge this remotely in the backcountry off of a battery bank, that would significantly use your battery stores. And it would take a long time to charge that little battery just for 30 minutes of flight as well. So that's definitely something to consider. I would definitely use this on day hikes, but for a longer backpacking trip, you might want to consider when you do and when you don't use it. Because also, as I said, there are land use issues where, like if you're in a congressionally designated wilderness, video to come about that very soon, you're not allowed to use drones at all in wilderness areas. Not one bit. Even if it's in a national forest, if it's a wilderness area like the Mazitsal Wilderness, for example, or Four Peaks Wilderness, which are right here, you're not allowed to fly these around. You're not even allowed to ride a mountain bike through those areas. So you can get fined really big if you're caught using any sort of motorized stuff in those areas. It's against the law, and you can get fined big time. FAA might get on your butt. It would be bad. So definitely know how to use these and where you can use these before you go flying around. In the DJI Fly app, there are actually some good maps in there that show, like, okay, you're this close to an airport, so you can only fly this high, or there are cool little zones that people can say, hey, this is a cool park to fly your drone around, and there's no airports around, so you can fly a little more freely. So definitely do some research. I'm not responsible if you decide to fly this like into your neighbor's backyard and snoop on them or something weird like that. You're not allowed to do that either. Do your own research to protect yourself. I don't take liability for any of that. But yeah, the DJI Mavic Mini. It's a great starter drone, and it'll help you see the world in a new way and share your story from a new perspective. I've loved working with this, and I would highly recommend, if you're just starting out into photography and telling some of your stories, sharing some of your stories, pick one of these up. They're not that expensive. They're a lot of fun to fly around, and there are some great Cyber Monday deals that are going to be happening on this product. So definitely use that link in the video description to help support this channel when you pick up one of these things. And yeah, now I guess all there is left to say is thank you so much for watching today's video. If you enjoyed it and you think I earned it, please hit that thumbs up button down below, as it'll tell the YouTube algorithm that you appreciate my work, and it'll get some more eyes on what I'm doing. If you really think I earned it, hit that subscribe button down below so you can be here for my next gear review or nature adventure. I appreciate your support. Thank you so much for watching. Stay groovy.